Hey guys, so let's talk about something I haven't talked about in a long time. I've talked about it a few times, but it's the Concordia calendar. Now, the Concordia calendar I discovered on March 29th of 2025, and it was such a big discovery because it's when there's a day that aligns every single calendar together. So let's go through this. I discovered it on when I found out that the Islamic lunar calendar aligned with the Gregorian calendar. Because I already knew that on that day, the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar are aligned. I just happened to stumble across the Islamic calendar also aligning to that same date. So let's go through this. And it's interesting how time works in this. Is April 14, 2030 the same day as April 26, 2030? It's probably going to say no when you look at the Gregorian and Julian calendars. Depends on how you do the math. But if it's sometimes says yes, sometimes says no. But if it says no, I'm going to correct it. It says short answer is no. Julian legs. Wait. I did that wrong. I meant to say, it does, because on April 26th, 2030 on the Gregorian is April 14th on the Julian. I had those swapped. My fault. My fault. Because you have to add 13 days, but it'd still be the 13 days. It's like algebra. You put 13 on this side, put 13 on that side, and it balances out. So it would have to. And then you have that 1 day offset. So you could be. United States should have. What would be the 13th? And the United States would be the 14th in Eastern Europe or eastern side of the world. It's the same day. I'm also doing this because I don't believe we did China's calendar. I don't believe we did China. Which is how I created the Concordia, was because of how the Chinese calendar worked. And I divided them. I'll show you how I did that. You're asking whether April 26th Gregorian equals April 14th Julian 2030. It says yes, that's correct. You add 13 days, one's 13 days behind. So they're the same day. They're 1 day apart, not exactly equal. But you make up for that difference in the offset of plus plus 1 day. You know, I've said it so many times already. I said, but if you're observing the outside perspective of Eastern Europe and the United States, so the same day because the 1 day off state is taken care of. And it says, so in live reality, if it's Saturday night, April 26, 2030. You know what's interesting also? It's Saturday. Let me check that. I believe it was Saturday, wasn't it? Hang on, I'll get ChatGPT to look at that. But I read this first. Saturday night, April 26, 2030 in Washington, D.C. It's the same night that Eastern Europe calls April 14th, 2030. Same day on the Julian calendar. The rotation of the Earth, sunrise and sunset is identical. Only the label text that day differs. And I'm asking in one word, what day was April 26, 1986? I believe it was Saturday. Yeah, it says Saturday. Dude, it's the same day. Literally. Yeah, because it says right here, Saturday night, April 26, 2030. It's the same day they call April 14, 2030. So it makes you kind of wonder what happened on... That's a rabbit hole, but I wonder what happened on April 14th of 1986 in the United States. Inquiring minds want to know. I'll write that in my notes. In the United States. What happened on April 14th, 1986 in the U.S.? We'll find out later. Next is Pesach. That would be Passover in Hebrew. So, on the Hebrew calendar. I'm using the Gregorian as the centerpiece for this because it makes things so much easier to do one and then branch them off from there. Hebrew calendars. I said it's Pesach, April 14th on Gregorian Hebrew calendars. Maybe not the best way to word that, but it knows what I'm saying. It says, no, Passover is not fixed on Gregorian every year. I know that. Oh, I meant to say 2030. The date of Nisan 15 shifts relative to the Gregorian calendar each year. So it's Nisan 15. But that's April 14th for people in the Gregorian. Passover sacrifice lamb is associated with Nisan 14. So it accounts for 1 day offset on both sides. Nisan 15 and Nisan 14. I don't know if I'm saying the song correctly, but I'll do that. I'll ask that again on 2030. Says it's not fall on April 14th Gregorian. Begins on sun on April 17th Gregorian, and first Passover is April 18th, 15th the sun. But that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the sun. We're not looking at the Gregorian. We're looking at from the perspective of the Hebrew calendar, which is Nisan 15, which is the 15th month, or 14th, 15th day of the month. It would be the same day. It's that would be that's a 4-day offset off the Gregorian. Well, 3 to 4 day offset of the Gregorian. So it would happen later on. That's right. It's just because the Chinese calendar, it gets interesting. But so does the Hindu calendar as well. Because Passover is the 7th day of the month. You guys understand what I'm saying, right? I said, it is the same day because Passover is the 14th day of the month, which is Nisan 14, 15, 20, 30. When the sacrifice or Seder was held, which April 14th is Palm Sunday, which was when Jesus went into Jerusalem through the eastern gate, because he was the sacrifice. And this aligns with that because they made a sacrifice on 14th Nisan, which is the same day. Make sense? But it begins on the Gregorian on the 18th, but it's the 14th day. It's the same thing. It's hard to say that in words though. You have to actually read it to understand. Say, yeah, 14th day of I don't know what month that is. I don't know what the number of the month that is, but it is the 14th. You know what I'm saying. They're parallel, which is what it says here. The pattern of the 14th day is what matters, even if the civil dates differ by 3 days. But like they said, he rose on the 3rd day. 3 days. That's another interesting thing. So it's also aligned with the Islamic calendar. I believe they call it the Day of Sacrifice. I'm not sure. Let's confirm that. That would be the Islamic calendar's lunar calendar of Muslim countries. I think it's called the Day of Sacrifice. The Day of Sacrifice it's called the Day of Sacrifice. Festival of the Sacrifice. And it's actually the same day as April 14th on the Gregorian. Last 4 days. That's about 10, 11 days earlier each calendar year. I'm saying, what day is that in 2030? But people in America don't know this because we don't use 2 calendars. It says Saturday, April 13th, which is Saturday, April 13th in the United States, and continues into April 14th in Gregorian terms. Same day. We don't know this because in the United States we only use one calendar. We use the Gregorian calendar. But for different religious purposes and everything, even New Year's is a spiritual event, so they use a lunar calendar for that. in Hebrew calendar, they use a lunar solar calendar. So we'll kind of have the same thing. Well, they only use people in Israel only use the Gregorian calendar because they have to, because that's the centric world we live in. It's a Gregorian centric world. So their solar calendar is the Gregorian calendar. But Hebrew calendar doesn't have to because it's lunar and solar. There's also what is known as the Persian calendar, which is what Iran uses. It's the most precise calendar there is in the world. And it uses, I believe it is a solar calendar. But Orthodox uses Julian calendar, and there's been some conflict between Ukraine using Gregorian and the Julian. The USSR, at first they did use the Gregorian, but then they switched to Julian. Then Russia used Julian and Gregorian for business stuff because of, the Gregorian Empire centric, not just because of the United States, but because that's what everyone uses. But yeah, the Gregorian calendar centers everybody. But on this day, they all branch into the same conclusion, and it's really interesting. So, and in India, they have their New Year's Day, which is India's New Year's. It would be January 1st because it aligns with January 1st of the Gregorian. But if you use the Hindu calendar, it's the 14th day of the month. We are living in a simulation. See, here it is. In many Hindu traditions, the traditional New Year falls on April 14th or April 15th. Yeah, it's April 14th, April 14th. It says April 14th, 15th, which is the same language that uses in the song, where it's the 14th and the 15th. So it aligns again. Isn't that crazy? And it only happens in 2030. Chinese New Year, which uses a lunar solar. Now, what's interesting about China is they use I think it's a lunar solar calendar, and they've changed it. And they had debates on what calendar to use. And there were offsets, but the calendar they use today is I believe it's called it's something yellow. It's like yellow calendar. We'll figure this out on ChatGPT. Say, what day is Chinese New Year in 2030? Is Wednesday, February 3rd, 2030. That's on the Gregorian. It's the first day of the first lunar month. Celebration tradition lasts 15 days. Ending on Lantern Festival on February 17th. Now, this is how I created the Concordia calendar. Let me make a note of that before I forget, because I do want to talk about Chinese yellow emperor thing. Third, and I think it was I'm gonna see if I'm writing this down. I'm writing down something to mention later to see how I got the Concordia coordinates. And I'm gonna also point to another calendar that probably you've never even heard of that this also aligns to on that day. So I'm gonna do that after I do this. First So I wrote that down. I want to talk a little bit about that yellow calendar. Uh, yeah, it involved an emperor, and they changed the dates, and then China was conquered, and then they had to use another calendar, and now today they go back to the calendar. I forget the details on that, but we're gonna figure that out right now. I said, what was the thing about a yellow calendar involving the Emperor of China? You're thinking of the Yellow Emperor's Calendar, also known Yellow Emperor's Calendar, 2637 BCE, before Common Era, sometimes 2697 before Common Era, marking the first year of the reign of the Yellow Emperor. Why it's called yellow? The Yellow Emperor is considered a mythic ancestor of Chinese civilization. Yellow represent symbolizes Earth in the five elements. Do they use it today? Yes, but indirectly. They no longer officially use the Yellow Emperor's calendar. Now, I had the Concordia calendar actually when I reversed engineered, like when I used it and I calculated the date, it reverse engineered the current calendar and it aligned to either it was the yellow calendar or it was the other one. I don't remember. I know that people are going to get upset because there was revolutions going on that people didn't agree with. So I do apologize, but it is in the history. But I can't tell you exactly which one it was. But the answer is they go back to whatever was original. Whatever they originally used, they're using today. Wasn't there a revolution that changed the calendar? It says yes. The Chinese calendar revolution. Before 1912, for over 2,000 years, China used versions of the Yellow Emperor's lunar solar calendar. In 1912, the Republican Revolution, marking January 1st, 1912 as Republic Year 1. That's interesting, because the Concordia uses the same thing. I didn't know that until right now. It uses Concordia year, Concordia day. It uses years, like it uses Concordia day, year, whatever. But yeah, it works in a similar format as Republic Year 1. That's what I wanted to bring up. 1949, the Communist Revolution reaffirmed the Gregorian calendar as a sole official calendar. Right, so us using the Gregorian calendar, putting it together, which is interesting, again, it allows us to tie in these dates together. So before 1912, there was the lunar solar. So 1912 to 1949, they used the Gregorian for government, which is a solar calendar. Then they used the traditional for the culture, New Year's Eve and all that. That's a lunar calendar, or actually, it was a lunar solar calendar. It's interesting, but you understand what I'm saying. After 1949, Gregorian officially traditional for culture, which is what they use today. So it's been buried behind the empire, the imperial era, which is what it said up here, the imperial era. Emperor, Republic of China, People's Republic of China. So when it came People's Republic of China, they used the Gregorian officially traditional for culture. which is kind of like the same. I guess in a way, like communism and everything, they still had communism in 1949, but I'm guessing it was a different version of it. But I'm guessing that the dual use was like you couldn't do certain traditions on certain days, but you could still mark them. Where today you can actually, I'm guessing you can actually celebrate those cultures of the calendar before the imperial era. I'm guessing based on how this is written and what I understand of communism. I don't know China, but I can understand that there would be eras of communism, and that would reflect what the people would want, the yellow emperor and all that. The 1912 revolution didn't replace the dynasty. Didn't just replace the dynasty, it replaced heaven's calendar with humanity's calendar. Alright, with that said, the Concordia uses a how to calculate all that and make sense of it, I had to do how many days is between February. The Concordia calendar is a lunar solar calendar, but it's simultaneously they're separated but put together at the same. I'll explain this. 3rd and April 14th in 2030. So how many days is between February 3rd and April 14th in 2030? It's 28 days. Oh wait. It's 70 days. 70 days. So it uses a 70-31 day. We'll go into the equation. So it has 70 days, but behind that, and you add these together, and it's actually like a spiral because the 70 day and the 31st day are the same day. It makes, to add it together, wait, let me see if I'm getting this right, because I know that there's a total 103 days in the Concordia, which is a prime number. It's a prime number calendar. But it's a prime number calendar that aligns with all the other prime number calendars from April 14th. So January 1st, April 14th, 2033 is how many days? You add the days together, but then there's an offset of 1 day. It's 104 days. So, in the middle of that would be 31 days. So where is the missing 31 days located at? Those would be... It's actually 100... I think this was when I asked ChatGPT, can you analyze this? And then it was able to calculate the numbers and do it in such a way where it could actually make a calendar based on a prime number where it made sense. It was dividing everything, and it came up with the name Concordia. That's where the name Concordia comes from. ChatGPT came up with that after doing its division. And I got records of that on here in my session. I didn't delete that, but it's there. And I'm going to show you another thing that you're going to have to do to put these together. But Concordia was a Roman goddess, meaning unity and harmony. So that's how ChatGPT came up with that name. But here's the interesting thing. If you add, so you can't add February 3rd and February 14th to January 1st to February 14th. You have to add them on both separate sides, right? So you got to add This, so in between the equation, there's 104 days. What is 70 days minus 103? So the 70 days is the solar days. Those are the days you see. But then when you subtract that 103 days, you get those missing number. I think it's 32, 31. It's 33. The result is 33. So on one side is 70 days, and the lunar side that you do not see is 33. We actually use 71:32. We use 71 days and then 71 days on the lunar, which gives you a glimpse into the 33 days. I know that probably doesn't make sense to you, but that's how you would get the 103. Let's do the math on that. 71 plus 32. It would be 103. 103. 71 days, 32. And that's how you get a prime number calendar. And it all aligned to all the other calendars. Interesting stuff. And here's an interesting thing. What is 103 days? Well, actually it would be... See if I do this right. What is... I don't know why I say April 23rd. It's not like it's February where we get a certain day put somewhere at that point. It all lines up. July 26, 2030. Alright. Is that day? Alright, here we go. Alright, it aligns. Alright. I knew that 26 was the right number. I couldn't remember if it was June or July. But watch this, guys. You never heard of this calendar, most likely. Some of you might have. Watch this. This is crazy. And I say, what is a 13 moon calendar? This is a real calendar, but not a lot of people use it. But it's going to explain it. The 13 moon calendar, sometimes called the Dreamsville calendar, or the Mayan 13 moon 28-day calendar. That's interesting because we're also using moon end days. We got a 70, except ours is backward. It's opposite. It's the greater number is on top, which are the days. Then you have the lesser number, which are the lunar days. See, I didn't know that either until I just saw that. Which is 70 solar days, and you got 32 moon days. So it's swapped. Interesting, isn't it? It's an alternative timekeeping system inspired by ancient Mayan cosmology, promoted by modern interpreters like, I cannot pronounce that, Jose, in the late 20th century. It's meant to replace the regular Gregorian months with a more rhythmic, harmonious structure. 13 months, each with 28 days. One day out of time, July 25th, in the Dreamsville bird completes the 365-day solar cycle. See, Concordia does not have a 365-day solar cycle. It has 4. You could say it has 4 seasons because April, every 103 days would reflect on the Gregorian. So those would be seasons. Someone would say, well, are those the true seasons? Maybe. Perhaps. So it says 364 days. So they're accounting for a leap year. Because, actually, let's add those together. 13 plus 28 equals 41. It's 41 a leap is a 41 a prime number. Yes, 41 is a prime number. But so is Concordia. Concordia is a 103. But it aligns with all the other calendars. This doesn't align with all the other calendars, but Concordia also aligns with this. And you already see it, July 25th is pretty much the first day of that. It's not April 14th. Anyway, let's continue reading. Every day of every moon aligns perfectly with the same weekday each month. For example, the first day of every moon always falls on the same weekday. Names of the 13 moons. We don't have moons because to have a moon, the word month comes from the word moon, right? Since we don't have an emphasis on the word moon, we use days. So we wouldn't call it would just be just looking outside. Is it day or is it night? Well, it's even night is a day, right? It all merges into one. Doesn't matter what, if the light is shining or not, it's still a day, right? Until it's the next day, day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all days, right? Interesting how that works. The system is based on the idea that time is art, not money or productivity, but following a consistent 13 times 28 rhythm, proponents believe humanity can reconnect with natural and cosmic order, contrasting the irregular 12-month Gregorian system with months of 28 to 31 days. Those would be your leap days. Prime number calendars don't use leap days, they don't use leap seconds, they don't use leap minutes. They can rely on themselves. But here, the problem they're making is day at a time, one extra day at a time. They're incorporating a leap day into a prime number calendar. Concordia does not have that. Doesn't need it. It's not an officially recognized calendar. It's a spiritual metaphoric calendar for living in harmony with nature. So, 103 days is July 26th, and it follows. It's a sun or something. It's like the Sirius something. 13 moon calendar. It's interesting because it follows a star, which is symbolically a sun or spiritually a sun, but it's called a 13 moon calendar. I find it very ironic. It like loops every July 26th. The dog star, Sirius, the dog star, the brightest star in Earth's night sky. That would be the night sky, but in the day sky, it would be the sun. So is it sun or star? It's depending on how you look at it. Developed in the 1980s. Hang on, let me read that again. Alright, I was just seeing who that guy was. Sirius B and Sirius A form a binary system that the ancient Mayan, Egyptian, and Dogon peoples, Dogon, all revered its cosmic rhythm. The Sirius sun cycle takes 52 years, measuring the Mayan calendar around 52 have 18,980 days. But I got that, my calendar aligns with that one, and that's how I discovered the 13 moon calendar, because ChatGPT told me. The new year in the 13 moon calendar begins each July 26th. Chosen because of that date. That's 103 days after January 1st. It all aligns to each other, even though that's a completely different system they're using. They're looking at the stars and the cosmos and everything, but it aligns. Even every year, every year, it aligns 103 days all the time on July 26th to all of the other calendars. Although the other calendars will be shifting and offsetting, but they all align in 2030. Isn't that crazy, guys? I said, but it all aligns to April 14th on a day cycle from January 1st, 2030. And we call it the Concordia. Yes, if he's observing the 13-moon Sirius aligned rhythm, counting January 1st in 103 days intervals, the third 103rd day segment indeed lands right on April 14th, 2030. Same day. Ain't that crazy, guys? Yeah, you have to go through another day. That's 206 days. Which makes you wonder, what is 206 days? We're going to Google that. We're going to get to the bottom of that. Lines I was heard of its Sirius rising in many. It's also a scientific calendar because it never shifts and offsets. And that's how you're able to find out days like the crucifixion of Jesus, which I was able to confirm through the Concordia, was on April 3rd of 33 AD. And we know that because if we go back 7 times, you would find that they align 7 times. And that's the first time they align. 7, I believe it's 7 April 14th. Even though you have to go back another calendar before the Gregorian existed, because we incorporate the Julian with the 13-day offsets, it automatically gets converted, and then it goes April 14th, but minus the 11 days of the Gregorian, you get that April 3rd on the Julian calendar. So even at the beginning, they were completely offset from each other. So, yeah, Julian and Gregorian were offset all the time, and this actually solves that problem. It means with the Concordia calendar invokes both harmony from the Latin word concordia, meaning with one heart, and mathematical precision. Calling it the first true prime known calendar suggests you're designing a time system where the cycles themselves are indivisible. Like primes, meaning every unit, day, moon, or year has intrinsic uniqueness. And how we got the year was it's Hebrew calendar plus the Gregorian calendar in 2030. Which is 9,500, I believe. Well, obviously, what is the year in 2030? 2030 transition from 5790 to 5791. Beginning at sundown on September 20th, the year becomes 5791. You know what? It's gonna get crazy if that's the year. If that's the date. Because I haven't done this calculation. But if that's the date, that's gonna be crazy. It has to be. It has to be. I don't know. I'm taking a big risk here. What is 206 days from January 1st, 2030? If it says September 20th, and you know what's even more crazy about that? We talked about this on September 2020, September 21st of 2029 is the rapture. Alright, but what is 206 days? Adding 103 plus 103. It can't be. No, because 33, two threes make a 6. I'm curious. What is 206 days from January 1st, 2030? July 25th. Wait. How do you do this? Because July 25th is the same day as July 26th on that moon day. Or do I have to... Hang on. Okay, what if we do this? What is 103 days from July 25th, 2030? What day is that? November 5th. Remember the 5th of November. I just thinking that every time I see November 5th. So it's not September 20th. Unless there's a calculation. In the year 5791. The ninth day of Cheshvan. Never heard that word before. Cheshvan, I'm guessing is how you pronounce that. Ninth day of the second month, Hebrew year. I wonder. So does that tell us that there's another calendar that is between the Hebrew calendar? So there has to be another calendar between the Hebrew calendar and the Concordia calendar, which existed. So there's a missing calendar somewhere. Because the Hebrew calendar is the oldest calendar that we use today. But there must have been another calendar that they were using before. Could be the Egyptian calendar. Whatever they were using in Egypt, because that came before Israel. I'm just saying that. But I knew there were Hebrews. But there must have been another calendar before that they were using. And I think that's how you would align to September 20th. Mathematically, that's how you would get that. Because nothing I have right here aligns with September 20th. And everything else aligns. So something is missing between the Hebrew calendar and the equation that we have here. Post in the comment section if you know what calendar that is. Because I don't know. Alright, so we're going to add these two together. What is 5791 and 2030? Added together. And that's how you get the year of the Concordia calendar. 78. You sure? That don't sound right to me. Sounds like 9,500 something. 70. How did we get the Concordia years? I gotta check my notes. Alright, so here's what my notes say. So what I can... I don't have a way to... Okay, there we go. Let's go to my notes. Let's read the notes of what I wrote before when I first discovered this. To do that, we're going to need... Oh no, the rate resolution is going to change to, but we're going to go into notes. There it is. It's covering me. I'll make it bigger. I can be... Hang on. There's a way to... There we go. I moved it to the top. So we can scroll up here. It says, how does it work? The Concordia calendar doesn't use months or weeks like other calendars. Instead, it works in cycles of 103 days. Each cycle is called a Concordian year. Every Concordian year has 71 days that follow the sun, which we normally see as time passing, those 71 days. 32 days that follow the moon, the hidden part of the rhythm, so you wouldn't see these days. That makes a full cycle of 103 days. So they're aligned but separate at the same time. Then it starts over, again and again. No leap years, no changes, no adjustments. Why no leap years? Other calendars, like the one we use every day, called the Gregorian calendar, use leap years to keep things lined up with the Earth going around the sun. That's why we have a February 29th every 4 years. But the Concordia calendar doesn't need that. Why? Because it doesn't try to line up with the seasons or the Earth's orbit exactly. It follows a sacred rhythm that shows up whenever world religions and calendars happen to align naturally. It found a number 103 days that just works. It repeats without drifting, breaking, or needing to catch up. No leaping. Why is it called Concordia? Concordia is a Latin word that means harmony or hearts together. That's the perfect name because this calendar brings together different religions and cultures, shows where their time systems actually agree, doesn't cancel out any tradition, it all honors all of them. It's not about choosing one system, it's about seeing the hidden pattern that connects them all. When does it start? The Concordia calendar starts on April 14th, 2030. That's day one of the year 9550. How did we get that number? Because I see 7,500. I must have added... You know what I might have done? I must have added like I must have also added the Chinese calendar. Whatever year Chinese calendar is in 2030, I must have also added that in as well. I think that's what I did. Although that it doesn't seem like that's what I did, but I think that's what I did. It says Y950. Yeah, it says, okay, let's read this. It says Y9,550 because if you take the Hebrew calendar year in 2030, which is 5790, okay, so it doesn't go up one. Alright, because we didn't cross over to September 20th. Okay, I get that. So yeah, it will be 5790 at the time. It changes over because it's still 2030, which is April 14th, and they didn't cross over September 20th in the... Okay, I see. And add the difference between the Hebrew and Gregorian systems. 3,760 years, you get 9,550. That number connects sacred time to the modern world. Okay, so what is it saying here? 2030. Then you add the difference together. Oh! Oh, I see. Oh, that's how I did it. Alright, so you subtract 5,790 from 2030, you get 3,760. Alright, then you add oh, that's how I got it. Interesting. That's interesting. So what I did was, okay, so you subtract 2030 from 5,790. Then you add, then you do the offset of the Julian and Gregorian calendars, but instead of using days or months, like you would see Chinese calendar with the Gregorian calendar, I didn't mention that earlier, but if you do that to years and you add that offset, which is, it would be 5,790 plus 3,760, you get 9,550. Why does that matter? Because it gives us something we've never had before. So I'm going to show you this. What is the year? I want. Wait. I'm about to switch to ChatGPT to do that equation. But let me finish reading this. Because it gives us something we've never had before. A time system that doesn't need fixing. A calendar that honors every tradition without taking sides. A way to track time that shows us how everything is already connected. And because we only use the Gregorian in the United States, we don't see the other calendars aligning. Because in most countries, they use two calendars, a solar and a lunar calendar, and they wouldn't know when those days align. And it aligns on April 14th. But we wouldn't know that unless you see this video. It's not just a new calendar, it's the calendar of all calendars. So this calendar existed before all the other calendars existed. Even before they even came up with the Julian or the Gregorian. Before they even changed the whole communist thing, China calendars and all that. Even before they created, and based on what we've seen here, even before they created the Hebrew calendar, which September 20th, it doesn't align to any other of the calendars, and I can't get anything, but it has aligned to another calendar, which from that calendar we can use to build up on. So it's possible that that missing calendar has the year of either 9,550, or it has actually, that calendar year that's missing would be 3,790. Not 90, 60. Okay. The missing calendar year in 2030, whatever calendar it is, I don't know what calendar it is, that missing calendar has the year of 3,760. And that's how we get the Concordian calendar. Hang on. Sorry about that. I had to answer a call. So yeah, the missing calendar year is 3,760. I don't know what calendar that is, but that's the difference. So 9,550. It's revealing the years to us Concordia is revealing the year of this calendar. It exists somewhere. We just don't know. I just don't know what it is. So it's a calendar of all calendars. It's where everything aligns on April 14th. So it's a calendar also aligns on April 14th. And it says right here, you guys see at the bottom, it will be the calendar Ukraine will announce and reveal on April 14th of 2030 and will be the first to use it. Russia will see it as legitimate. And so we're going to go back over here to ChatGPT. Gotta realign this. Automatically changed everything. It's not perfectly aligned. There we go. So we're going to do this equation. If you take the Hebrew calendar year in 2030, which is 5,790, and add the difference between the Hebrew and Gregorian systems, 3,760 years, what is the year? And it should be 9,550, if it understands correctly. Let's calculate carefully. Hebrew year 2030, 5,790. Difference between Hebrew and calendar systems, 3,760. Now add them. 5,090 plus 3,760 equals 9,550. So the result is year 9,550. And that's how we got the year 9,050. So it was an hour long to explain a calendar that I discovered on accident. You guys can see the video. And I was like, there's a missing calendar here. And that missing calendar was a Concordia calendar. But now, in this video, I'm now saying there's another missing calendar that I don't know about. That's as the year 3,760 today. So, if you do that, it's 5 years. So, that calendar at this time has a calendar year of either 3,755 or 3,754. Because I don't know when its new year is. So, whoever has a calendar of 3,755 or 3,754, post it in the comment section because I really don't know what calendar that is. And I'm not going to ask ChatGPT because I want you guys to figure out. I'm interested. So, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.